What's up, everybody? I wanted to give you an update, give you my thoughts, and also give my thoughts and prayers to the bears over here, as CleanSpark and Bitcoin have both been popping quite nice lately. CPI was just released and the market's still pumping. We're going to quickly look at CPI. I'm going to give you my thoughts on CleanSpark and show you what's going on with Bitcoin lately. So let's get right into this video. So first off, CPI, and I'll give you guys a link down below for this so you can see all the changes that happen here in the CPI, but we see a 6% 12-month change in CPI here. Some things have definitely come down quite a bit, but some things have risen quite a bit. Airline fare, ridiculously high on a 12-month basis. Vehicle insurance, rent, energy, alcoholic beverages, unfortunately. Inflation is still quite high, but it is going in the right direction in my opinion. And I also wanted to show you guys this chart, or I guess table I should call it. But look at February. We're seeing a lot of pretty steep declines. While yes, year-over-year energy services is quite high as I showed you, but you'll see that on a month-to-month basis, things are definitely cooling down. Fuel has been dropping in price, and I can definitely confirm this. Where I am at, I am actually paying, or I was paying, right around $5.20 per gallon. Now it's like around $4.80 or so. But in general, things are on a decline, and that's definitely a good sign. And I also wanted to show you this graph as well, just to kind of give you context on the direction we're going. You can see that inflation is coming down, but is still quite above the Fed's target, meaning more rates are possible. But as we've seen with Silicon Valley Bank and all these bank run worries, the Fed is clearly starting to break things. The Fed has to be very cautious now. But I do think another 25 basis point hike is in the works, and perhaps even another one after that, maybe even another one. But one thing is pretty clear, we're likely not to have another 50 basis point increase, and it is possible that the Fed doesn't increase the end goal, their terminal rate at the end here. We might have a few left, get to their target rate, and then that's it. It really depends on where inflation continues to go month over month. I personally think our next meeting we are going to see a 25 basis point hike, and as they say, don't fight the Fed. But keep in mind that the market is always forwards looking, so it's really hard to say where we go from here. Now I did want to bring a couple of things up in this article before I talk about CleanSpark and go over where I think they're going to be revenue-wise. I do think they're going to have a record-breaking quarter, and things are definitely looking pretty good in March in terms of Bitcoin's price. Now let's read this here. The news on the macro front does not fully explain why crypto markets continue to rally, especially considering the industry is still scrambling to find new banking partners after the closure of 3 crypto-friendly banks. I already have something to say regarding that, but we'll talk about it in a second. This Clara Medali person continues on and says Binance's announcement that they would liquidate 1 billion BUSD in exchange to buy 1 billion worth of Bitcoin, ETH, and other assets is a strong catalyst for the recent price action. True. Overall, the recovery of USDC, meaning the repegging, Binance's BUSD announcement and slowing inflation have triggered a market rally, but the industry faces significant headwinds. I think the news on the macro front explains what's going on with Bitcoin quite well. People are worried about the banks, people see opportunity in Bitcoin, and people, just the thought of there's going to be people getting into this to get away from banks could be the reason it's rallying. It might not even be the fact that people are leaving the banks to go to Bitcoin. It might be that that's the thought process that, oh, I'm going to buy Bitcoin now. We got to all load up on Bitcoin because these people leaving the banks are going to need to put their money somewhere. I personally don't think Bitcoin's necessarily the top choice for a lot of older folks that are thinking of, where do I put my money to get out of this bank? I don't think Bitcoin's necessarily their first pick, but I do see kind of the thought process here for traders and just, people speculating. So now that our CPI report released, the likelihood of the Fed putting a pause on interest rates actually fell to 15%. So people were thinking it was more likely that they might pause, but our CPI just came out and now we think it's less and less likely because it basically met expectations. It wasn't drastically down, but CPI is still going in the right direction in my opinion. However, as I said, quite a far away from 2% Fed goal. But they don't necessarily need to stop once it gets to 2%. They will likely stop raising rates maybe when it gets around 3.5, maybe 4%. But I think we're still very likely for just a couple more rate hikes. But as the Fed said, these previous rate hikes are still yet to be felt. So that's one thing to consider. That came from their own words. Alright guys, the rest of this video, I'm going to focus on CleanSpark and give you my thoughts on where we're going here. We are halfway through this month just about, meaning we're about 2 weeks away from a Bitcoin mining update, meaning we're about 2 weeks away from seeing what their revenue will look like for their next earnings. And let's get into it. So first off, to give you guys some context, their January and February Bitcoin mining update came out obviously, and in January they pulled in 11.9 million in Bitcoin sold in revenue, and then in February they pulled in 17.9 million. So far on this quarter they're going to report next, the quarter we're in, they're looking at 29 0.8 million so far. So what's that mean for their next earnings? Well, one, it's very likely they don't have a profitable quarter yet. We're not there just yet. This is still very high risk. I hope I don't have to keep reminding you guys that. But by some of the comments, you know, it seems like a lot of you don't know that it's high risk. And just because it's a high conviction stock for me doesn't mean it's not high risk. Now, what they're expecting for revenue here on their next report is right around 43 million, meaning they need March to pull in right around 14 million in revenue for selling their Bitcoin. So essentially all they need to do is get right in between where they were in February and where they were in January. They need to do better than January, and they don't necessarily need to exceed what they did in February, which was a shorter month, but they did sell more Bitcoin than they bought, so consider that. And also in February, Bitcoin's price fluctuated quite a bit. In January, they sold their Bitcoin for quite a lower amount. I do suspect here in March that we'll see that they actually sold their Bitcoin at a pretty good price, at least looking at where we've been. And I do suspect that they will easily see this 14 million in revenue, meaning they can have a record-breaking quarter again, meaning that they will see a year-over-year increase in revenue, which is very important. I think this is the goal of the execs here, because if they show a year-over-year decline in revenue, that could put some more fear into Wall Street, even more than they already have. But I do suspect with Bitcoin now pushing up that they will easily hit that revenue expectation, and we will be back to record-breaking quarters where it pertains to revenue. And this could very well be that pivot point in Bitcoin where things start slowly going up and up and up. It's really hard to say, but we do have some bullish indicators on the chart, as I've showed you guys in previous videos. Now, I did want to show you guys CleanSpark on the chart. This is currently bouncing off of near oversold. The MACD looks like it's nearing curling, but not there yet. And we haven't yet broken our low that was established in December of 2022. I know that's not that long ago. There's a lot of stocks that have actually held up their May 11 lows, but where it comes to crypto, a lot of these crypto-specific stocks have not held up their May 11 lows, and CleanSpark is no exception. Now, I did want to show you on CleanSpark that we have not yet seen a flip of the 50 to the 200 MA. I'm still watching for that, and it really depends on where Bitcoin goes, but CleanSpark's chart really doesn't look the best. I'll be watching CleanSpark's chart to break the 200 and then break the 50, but we are currently still, at least from a chart standpoint, in a downtrend. And as for the EMAs, the 50, the 100, and 200, keep an eye on this 271 area. I do think this may become a resistance. It's right where our 50 EMA lies, and we have hit this as a resistance before and also bounced off of it as a support. So people are watching for these levels. And as for if we start pulling back, we do need to see $2 hold. Otherwise, we could potentially retest our lows here. Now looking at Bitcoin, a much more bullish chart in my eyes, which could help CleanSpark out and help CleanSpark's chart become more bullish. Bitcoin has had that golden cross, has flipped the 50 to the 200, and it even used the 200 MA as a support back here when it hit 19.5. One thing you might notice is on the daily, Bitcoin is nearing overbought, but not quite there yet. And another thing that's absolutely huge is Bitcoin has broken its resistance, this 25.2 area, and it actually hasn't traded this high in price where it currently sits since summer of last year. But one thing to be aware of here is it has definitely ran quite a bit, and I'm wondering how likely it is to, since it broke this 25.2 area, which was a very strong resistance, how likely is it to just start pushing towards 28? As you guys have seen back here, there really aren't all that many levels besides this 25.2 area and then getting towards 28. I personally believe if we were running up quite slower than this, it would be very, very likely for us to see 28 in a short period of time. However, just looking at how Bitcoin is going lately, getting towards overbought, and how much it's just ran without any consolidation, I think it'll be a bit of a struggle to get to 28, but I could of course be wrong. I do think at the very least, it's going to try to establish a support here at this 25.2, and that'll give us a nice jumping off point as long as it can hold this 25.2 area. It was a strong resistance, and hopefully we can flip it to become a strong support, and that'll only help out CleanSpark and help out our portfolios. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll also leave CleanSpark's last Bitcoin mining updates if you guys need to look over those. They'll be down below in the description, as well as some stocks and cryptos. Make sure you check them out. Thanks as always for watching, guys. Let me know how you're feeling about CleanSpark lately, and let me know where you think Bitcoin is going as well. Thanks so much, and I'll see you later.